semi-front wrap cross carry is a base -2 front carry or hip carry that has a decent amount of seat protection and is wrapped or partially pre-tied but mostly wrapped around baby. It's very similar to semi-pocket wrap cross carry, but because it's wrapped around baby, it can make getting that hammocked cross pass flipped right a little easier, easier to visualize since you're working around baby and not pre-tying without baby. So you're going to find your middle marker, and you're going to put the middle marker under the armpit of the shoulder that you want capped. This is a one shoulder carry, and so I'm going to start with the middle marker under the shoulder that I want the wrap on. I'm going to take the wrap under my opposite arm, up diagonally, over my back, and onto that shoulder, with the middle marker still pinned under my armpit. I'm going to gather up the bottom rail on my front to about where baby's bum will be. I'm not too worried about it right now. I'm just trying to get most of this width out of the way and tighten the bottom rail up on my shoulder. And then I'm going to take the wrap that's pinned under my armpit on the side where the shoulder is going to be covered and capped. And I'm going to take that across my back, diagonally up, and right now it's going to go on top of my shoulder, just like starting a front wrap cross carry. In the end, this shoulder will not be capped, but it's a good place to put it for now to get started. I'm going to start by getting the horizontal pouch on my front, about the same size as baby. I'm working with a newborn size demo doll. So I'm going to tighten up the top rail. If it was loose, hanging down to my belly button, as often happens when you're pre-wrapping this, I would pull the top rail up to about my sternum and kind of hold it there, and then I would do both sides, grab the top rail of the tail over one shoulder and pull it behind my back and out to the side, and then the same thing with the other one, on the other tail on top of my shoulder, top rail up behind me to the side if I can't get it to move, so that this top rail should be loose, but it should stay fairly horizontal around sternum level, not flopping way down. And same if the bottom rail is hanging all the way down to your hips, unless you are wrapping a giant preschooler whose bum is going to be down where your hips are, then you need to tighten this up, gather up all the excess width. My newborn size demo doll is bum should be right at about the bottom of my rib cage, so I'm going to gather up that bottom rail to about that width, and then tighten the bottom rail on each shoulder, again pulling behind my back, on both tails. So now I've got a horizontal pouch. I might have to loosen this up just a smidge, but not too much. Any slack you introduce is slack you have to tighten out later. I'm going to put my baby on my shoulder. It doesn't matter which shoulder at this point. And I'm going to reach my, use one hand to hold baby. I'm going to reach my other hand up through that horizontal pass and find baby's feet. Both of their feet, hold their feet in my hand and guide them down through, slowly lowering baby into that horizontal pass. Right now it's bunched under their knees, and I'm just kind of getting baby settled on my chest. At this point, if you had an older infant or a toddler and you wanted it as a hip carry, you'd want to scoot them over onto the hip opposite from the shoulder that's going to be covered. But with little babies, it's best to have them centered on your chest if possible. So I'm just getting this worked up into the backs of their knees. I'm going to take the top rail of the horizontal pass and pull it up over baby's back. With an older infant or a toddler, this can be just as high as their armpits, but with a small infant or a newborn, it needs to go all the way to the nape of their neck, just below their ears. And so now you see that this top rail is a little loose. It's not supporting their neck. So again, I'm I'm going to take the top rail on each shoulder pass and pull it behind me. And once I've tightened it this time, I don't want to let go of it. So I grabbed the right tail and tighten the top rail. I'm going to hold it in my right hand while I support baby with that hand. And then I'm going to tighten the left side. If you find it is digging under your arms, into your armpits when you tighten, make sure that you're pulling more out to the side than up. And that will help with that. Okay. Then make sure that baby, I'm going to try and move the wrap out of the way so you can see what I'm doing, because I'm going to be doing this under the wrap. Not only do you need baby's knees above their bum, you also want to make sure that you kind of run your hands under their bum and lift their thighs so that their pelvis is tucked and they're in a nice seated position, that they're not bracing against the bottom rail with their knees. And then tighten. At this point you can just tighten strand by strand. If you have a lot of slack, I would immediately do the bottom rail, but if it's just a little bit, then you can just strand by strand tighten across each shoulder, making sure to get the top, middle, and bottom rail. With some wraps you may need to do 5 or 6 strands. With others you might only need to do 3, that top, middle, and bottom. Okay, I'm going to keep both of these in my hand now that I've tightened them. I'm going to take the slightly longer tail, which is the one that's going to go under my arm. I'm going to pull it out to the side, keeping tension on it, and bring it under my arm. Kind of slip my arm out. And now, if you want to just snug up the carry as a whole, then you can do a little L pull. That's taking the tail that's over your shoulder and pulling it straight up, and the tail that's under your arm and pulling it out to the side and a little bit behind you, and do a little bounce while you push out to the side. And you should be able to feel that tighten up along baby's back. At this point, we want to hammock the cross pass. I'm going to pin this tail in my legs to keep it out of the way. That is going to lose some of the precision of the strand by strand tightening I did on my shoulder, but if we do a sliding knot at the end, I can fix that. So, when I bring this under baby's leg to make a cross pass, you see this is the top rail along my back. I'm going to tuck that top rail under baby's bum, under their first knee, all the way to the knee that is on the same side where the knot is going to be on my shoulder. I'm going to tuck that under there and get that up under the first knee as high as possible. And now I'm going to move that extra width, pull any extra width of the wrap towards that knot side knee, kind of tuck it under that knee so that I just have enough width to go up over baby's back. And then I'm going to take the bottom rail, what's been the bottom rail for the whole carry, running across, horizontally across my back. You can see this dark blue rail. And now I'm going to flip that up over baby's back. And it's going to become the top rail. This hammocks the cross pass and means that instead of just supporting the knee that it's going under, it's actually supporting both knees. At this point, with a really good hammock, you're going to actually want to take, this is tricky, find the pass that's the horizontal pass on the inside over baby, find the bottom rail opposite the side of the knot, and make sure that it kind of pull it out over top of that horizontal pass on your back. So that horizontal pass over baby turns into the diagonal pass up your back going towards the where it goes over your shoulder, and you want it on the outside of the horizontal pass on your back, which is turning into this cross pass over baby. And then the horizontal pass, you're going to want to spread as wide as you can. And make sure that it's well tightened, which you're kind of having to do through this cross pass, so it's tricky. And just tighten it up under baby's leg, across your back, under baby's bum, and find that same strand and pull it up over that cross pass towards the tail. Okay, so this horizontal pass should be nice and snug throughout. All the strands equally weight bearing. So that this will take more, the horizontal back pass will take more weight than the pass over your shoulder. So despite being a one shoulder carry, it shouldn't be too shoulder heavy like a ring sling is. Now I'm going to make sure with all that tightening, the cross pass might have slid down a bit over baby's back. I want to make sure that it's spread nice and high from knee to knee and all the way up to the top rail of the other pass, either to the nape of baby's neck for a little baby or to their armpits for an older infant or a toddler. And then I'm going to cross the two tails just below my collarbone. And at this point, you want to tie a sliding knot, often called a slip knot in the baby wearing world. The actual type of knot used is typically a cow's hitch knot, although other sliding knots like clove hitch knots are also acceptable. To do this, you're going to, the tail that goes over your shoulder is still pinned between your legs. Consider it an immovable pole that you're tying a knot around. That tail never moves. The tail that's coming up, making the cross pass over baby's back, is the working tail of the knot. It does all the work. It's going to first go over the sliding tail towards the outside of your body and make a U-turn back under the sliding tail and up towards your face. Pull it through. It then comes straight down, so it's running parallel to the sliding tail towards the inside and goes back over itself where it was going over baby's body. And then use your hand on the side where the wrap will be capped and go under, reach under the sliding tail towards the inside and grab the working tail and pull it under towards the outside, which makes a little bit of a loop. I kept holding the working tail where it went over itself, so it made a little loop with itself where it goes under the sliding tail again. And so then the end of the tail is going to come back towards the inside, over the sliding tail, and through that loop. And then it kind of makes these two cloverleaf loops. So there should be two half knots essentially wrapped around the sliding tail, which does nothing the whole time. You can tighten it up if needed by grabbing the part of the knot that runs parallel to the sliding knot on the top and pulling it up to the outside while pulling on the tail of the working tail. And now this knot slides up and down. So I'm most comfortable if I cap the shoulder on this carry. Distribute the width where you find it most comfortable. I find if I get more width bunched at the bottom rail on my arm, I'm going to lose some mobility, but it's going to prevent it from digging on my neck. And then I'm going to strand by strand tighten by bracing against the knot and pulling the sliding tail below the knot, one strand at a time. And that way you you can tighten each strand as much as it needs and no more. And the other nice thing about this is sliding knots can be used to tighten a knot, but also to loosen through the knot. So right now, this very top edge is actually a little tighter than the rest of the shoulder is. So I'm actually going to pull a little bit of slack back into that rail so that it's all even. And then if you need to tighten up the carry as a whole, you can, instead of bracing against the knot and moving the strands through the tail, you're actually just going to hold the tail taut itself, the sliding tail, and push up on the knot and move the knot up. And that gives you a 2-layer carry. Normally your tails wouldn't be this long if you were using a base -2 wrap. This is a base -1 for me and wrapping this demo doll. This pass should be fairly snug and spread. This horizontal pass along your back. And you'll notice that if done correctly, both of baby's knees are supported by the cross pass, and the wrong side, if there is one, of the wrap will show on that one pass. And that is semi front wrap cross carry.